Appreciate it. Mic's on? All right, good. Sorry, sudden change, right? We're all strength coaches, so we should be used to that, right? Sudden change, get riding. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about reverse engineering the demands of football, building capacities to feed skills, all right? First off, I got to thank the CSCCA for having me out. All right, this is, again, it's unbelievable to be around all these coaches and to get this experience. I got to thank Rock Daisy AMS for sponsoring it. I got to thank Coach Tom Herman because he believes in me, he trusted me, he hired me. It's been a blessing to be able to see and go through that transition that we had with our previous coach getting fired and him to believe in me and what we're doing there to keep me in and retain me. I got to thank my staff because as good as everyone, as I want to think I am and all that, I can't do anything without them carrying out my vision and my mission. Okay, so my staff does a hell of a job. I got to thank y'all for being here. Always got to thank my wife and kids because that is my real purpose in life. And we can't forget why we're here and what we do is it's about the players. So again, I got to thank my players for everything they do. 3 guarantees. All right. Some's going to be spelled wrong. I'm not great with spelling, okay, but I'm good with numbers. All right. I'm going to cuss. It's going to happen. It is what it is. And then the last guarantee, this thing's moving slow. I'll talk fast. I'm from New York originally. That's how we talk. All right. I put this in every single presentation. All right, because I think it's extremely important for everyone to understand we're the creator of nothing, we're the borrower of everything. As much as you think you got the latest and greatest and it's innovative and all that, there was probably some Russian in 1918 doing what you were doing. Okay, so don't sit here and I'm not going to proclaim I'm doing all this fancy stuff that I created and I did all these things. I've pulled from so many people. My slides up? They ain't coming up, are they? I heard they cut someone's slide off earlier, so they cut the lights off, so hopefully Florida Power and Lights don't come and get me here in about 35 minutes. So, all right. But again, we take from everybody, okay? And I think it's important to give credit when credit is due. I'm not going to sit up here and proclaim what I do is better than, or I made this or I did that. I took from all these people. I copied, I stole, I borrowed, and I made it into my own, okay? Goal of presentation. All right, understand a layered approach to training that centers around preparing for the demands of football. Because at the end of the day, they got to go play a game and they got to be ready to go play that game. All right, understanding the locomotion and contact demands of football and how they are different. Okay, how they are very different. Understand the difference between skills and capacities. Okay, skills and capacities. Putting it all together in a way that promotes training compatibility. Compatibility is key. Okay, incorporating skill development without turning every session into a practice, right? Because that's not the goal, okay? That's not the goal. If I do one thing right today, okay, it's to challenge your perspective, okay? It's to challenge your perspective. If you can walk out of here and I made you think about your program, then I did my job. I'm not here to tell you how to do things. I'm here to help you guys and encourage thought processes that makes you challenge your own programs, okay? Question haunts my dreams. Do we as strength and conditioning coaches really know our sport and why we are training? Okay, do we actually know the sport? I'm not just talking about, there's a football, the offense, defense, all these things. I'm talking about the nuts and bolts, breaking it down to a microscope level, breaking it down to the simplest, most specific thing in that sport. Okay, we have to take a needs analysis and really break down that sport. And now with the emergence of all the technology that we have, there shouldn't be any excuses. There shouldn't be any excuses why you can't go and research and be the most knowledgeable person on your sport in the building, okay? Right, because it's the metaphor, right? I tell people all the time, when you talk about football training, okay, a lot of times it's like looking like at a pack of zebras. When you talk about positions, okay? They all look like donkeys. They all got black and white stripes, okay? But as soon as you walk up to a zebra, you can see the patterns are different and they're unique to each zebra. Okay, the same can be said for the game of football. Football is a game of many games. Okay, football is a game of many games. All right, big rocks of the game that we all should know and we all should cover. The big rocks. We should know our average play time is 4 to 6 seconds. Okay, we should know that at least at FAU, our average drives per play is about 6 plays. Okay, average drives in a game is 12. So we get roughly around 72 to 75 plays a game. Okay, average time between plays is roughly 27 seconds plus or minus 3. Okay, we do hurry up, but we also slow it down. All right, average rest between series is 5 minutes plus or minus 2, and then the average duration of a game is 3 hours and 45 minutes, and that's going to change with the new rules that went in place with the new clock rules. Okay, so these are big rocks. These are things that are non-negotiables that you should already understand before you even put a rep or a set on a piece of paper. Okay, now where it gets tricky is this, is the game. That's great, game's 4 to 6 seconds, but actual gameplay, okay, is way faster than what we think it is. Okay, so what we did is we saw Derek Hansen, he made a chart looking at just the average ground contact time and movement expression times of things such as change of direction, acceleration, all these different things, right? And I said, in 2021, me and my staff were sitting down, I was like, we need to do that with football. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, we need to go get our phones out, go outside, and videotape all of these foundational football movements, whether it's an offensive line kick sliding, whether it's a DB getting out of a break, whether it's a receiver running a 45-degree cut, a 90-degree cut, whatever it was. We need to film these, okay, and we need to figure out what these movement expression times and what their average ground contact times are. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're really training for. That's how we improve them, okay? And what we found out, all right, is everything, for the most part, happens under 500 milliseconds, which is extremely fast, okay? And then you can see, again, this is a chart derived from Derek Hansen. I want to make sure I give him credit. And it's backed by research. So in that bottom corner, that's Paul Comfort's book, Advanced Strength and Conditioning. And you can see all these movements are fast. They're under 500 milliseconds. Okay, so when we have training outcomes that we're training towards, they should be improving these times. All right, now we get into, again, the zebras, right? All the zebras look similar. Well, you have 5 main demands for football. You have 5. However you chop it up, this is what it's going to look like. You have 4 locomotion demands, and you have 1 collision demand. Okay? You have acceleration, deacceleration, maximum velocity sprinting, and yes, big guys do run at top speed. Their speed ain't 22, it might be 14, but that's top speed. And they have change of direction. Okay, and then we'll talk about contact demand. So what we found out, again, GPS, we have catapult, okay, and what we found out that is even in position groups, okay, receivers, okay, slot versus outside, okay, looking at our centers versus our guards and our tackles, it is not the same game, and there is a significant difference, okay, in every single one of these demands that we're asking these players to do. So this is from a game, and then we also looked at, this is very similar to practice data, okay, and what you can see is there's huge discrepancies in high-speed yardage. There's huge discrepancies in total volume. There's huge discrepancies in collisions, okay? Corners don't hit anybody, all right? If they do, they go to the NFL, all right? But look, they barely hit anybody versus our tackles who are in a fight every play, okay? So we have to take all these considerations before you put in a set, a rep, or run together. This is what you're really training to get them prepared for, okay, is practice and games. You are getting them ready for this. All right, and if you don't match these, if you don't build reserves that are higher than these, if you're not trying to increase the performance side of it, we're doing them a disservice and they're not ready to play. All right, so when we look at the performance side of it, okay, because I like to look at performance and support. All right, I took that from Paul Jackson. Okay, you look at the performance side of it, when we look at our GPS, that's how we're determining if we're increasing performance. Okay, max speed, max acceleration, max deacceleration. Okay, because it ain't track. You ain't running in a straight line. You got to be able to stop. Okay? Then when I look at the support, the capacity side of it, the volume side of it, we're looking at all those volume metrics. Total high-speed yardage, total acceleration count, total deacceleration count, IMA, which is that change of direction. All right? And it's extremely important because all of those have a cost of movement. There's a mechanical stress that follows all of those movements, okay? And we have to understand what those are so that we can plan to get them ready for those demands in the game, all right? So we get into ground reaction forces of different movements, right? There is a cost of movement. There is a cost of me walking right now. There's a cost when I go sprint. There's a cost when I deaccelerate. There is cost of movement, okay? It is your job to understand what the cost is. So the 4 locomotion demands and the cost of movement, okay? We look at deacceleration in the top left. All right? Not only is it happening roughly at 200 milliseconds, which is dumb fast, okay? You're experiencing 6 times body weight in forces, okay? It is the highest mechanical stress that you'll have on the field, all right? And where does that show up? We look at a lot of Damon Harper's research, and he talks about non-contact injuries all the time. And where does it usually happen? In a deaccelerative state. Okay, in a deaccelerative state. Now, yes, I know I could be nitpicky and talk about the cognitive side of it that comes along with that, but if you can't stop, if you don't have the skills, the capabilities, the capacities to stop, I don't care how good your technique is, it's going to give out, okay? So understanding deceleration. Acceleration is only 2.5 times body weight. It's literally half of what a deceleration is. Okay? So when you're looking at your acceleration counts, yeah, I got 60 accelerations and I only got 20 decelerations. Well, guess what? Relative intensity, those are the same mechanical stress. Okay? Because when you look at the ground reaction forces, all right, it's half of what deceleration is. All right? When we look at high speed change of direction, it's about 3 times body weight. Okay, 3 times body weight. And then when you start reducing the speed, it decreases even more. Okay, it decreases even more. And then high speed running, that's from Ken Clark's research, and we all know that's roughly around 4 times body weight. It's important to know this. Okay, so when you look at your GPS or when you look at them on the field, you have a good idea of how hard that actually was. Okay, how hard that was. And then we talk about collision. And Coach Milo, who's with the Jaguars for a long time, sent me this article, and it's unbelievable. But what we came to find out is collisions have a completely different stress than all of the locomotion movements that we just talked about. Okay, it has a completely different effect on your body. All right, so you know, we're in shape, we change direction, we pass our condition test, we do all these different things. We go out on the field, and man, guys are just destroyed. Well, why? Did you do any collision prep in your program? Okay, because that's a completely different. So I want you to think about this now. I know the NCAA, and we're going to talk about those rules and how to navigate those a little bit. But you go 6 months without any collisions, and then just expect them to go bang. Without any buildup, without any progression, you're setting them up for failure. All right, that's why in the NFL, the training camp, the first 3 weeks has the highest injury rate. Is because they're exposed to collisions, okay, over and over and over again, after not doing it for about 5-6 months. Okay, so we have to understand the cost of movement. We have to understand the cost of collisions, right? And then what is it? Football's a game of momentum. All right, until they take and make it flag, all right, which they're never going to do, it is a game of momentum. Why is it important to get fast? Because you can build more momentum. Why is it important to get bigger? Okay, because you can build more momentum. All right, it is a game of momentum. You look at that chart right there, and this is from Timothy Gray's book, Physics of Football, which I highly recommend everyone reads. Okay, you look at how the game has evolved, it has consistently gotten bigger and faster throughout the years. Okay, statistically it has shown that. Well, why is that important? Because now every single collision is going to have a higher kinetic energy output. Okay, which means way more stress. Okay, so you bring your guy and you put 10 pounds on him and he goes from 20 miles an hour to 21. Well, guess what? That collision stress went way up. Okay, way up. Now, going through all this and looking at all that data, what generalizations can we make? How can we organize training in a way where we can make subgroups, right? We got 115 kids, most of us on our rosters. I'm not going to make 115 individual programs, but I can make generalizations based off what the data and the mechanical stress and the demand of the game's giving me. Okay, so when we look at it, our big guys, how we subgroup it, our O-line, our D tackles, and our nose tackles, right? We're looking at they have a lot of low-impact change of direction, 3 times as much as my receivers and corners. Okay, why? They play in a 5-yard box. Okay, they play in a 5-yard box. All right, they got the lowest total yardage count at any position. Again, why? They play in a 5-yard box. All right, they don't have to go out very far. All right, they have an extremely high agility demand. Okay, and agility is multifactorial. Okay, they have a high agility. They have high levels of contact, the most out of any position. All right, anyone that played O-line, D-line knows it is a fist fight. Okay, in practice for 2 hours and 30 minutes is a fist fight every play for 72 plays. Okay, highest contact demand. All right, then we move to our big mids. All right, tight ends, D ends, outside backers. All right, they have extremely high total yardage. Okay, extremely high total yards. Why? We're asking a tight end to go run a route. All right, 3rd down. All right, job back. Hey, guess what? 4th down, punt. Go run 50 yards down the field. Okay, majority of these players are special teams players. Okay, we can't just think in terms of offense and defense. We have to think of the entirety of the game. Okay, the entirety of the game. They have extremely high outputs. Okay, they have high speed demands. All right, they're roughly around 80 to 120 yards of 16+ mile an hour running. So it's very, very important that they get exposed to that in the offseason. Okay, oh yeah, we did a ton of acceleration. My tight end goes out there, runs his first fade route, pulls his hamstring. That's on me. That ain't on him. That's on me. I didn't expose him to it. Okay, high-intensity D-cells, they're getting -4 Gs. We already saw the mechanical stress that comes along with high-intensity D-cells. Okay, they're getting a lot of them. a lot of them. And they have moderate contact loads, okay, because they are in the box, all right? Inline tight end, he's going to get hit. Outside backer, all right? He sees that puller coming, he got a wrong arm, okay? They're going to get collisions. They're going to get collisions, all right? Then we get to our speed mids. That's my Hellcats, all right? My running backs, linebackers, down, safeties, and quarterbacks, right? The game's changed now. As soon as you put them in space, it's all about speed and closing, okay? Separation and closure, all right? My Hellcats, they're going to have high agility demands. They're going to have a high speed demand. They're roughly in that same boat, 80 to 120 yards of 16 plus, right? High intensity D cells. Man, I've seen guys get up to -6 Gs consistently in a practice. That's extremely, extremely impactful on their bodies, okay? And they have moderate total yardage and contact demands. Moderate yardage being roughly around like 5,000. And then you get to my skill guys. Those are my motorbikes. Those are my crotch rockets, man. They don't want to hit nothing. They want to run around things, and they want to be fast. They got to be the fastest thing on the field, okay? They got to be the fastest, most agile thing on the field. They have multiple 20-mile-per-hour events happening in practice and in games, multiple, okay? They have extremely high D cells. Now, the count might not be as high as the O-line, but the difference is O-lineman's coming from 3 miles an hour. My receiver's coming from 14 miles an hour, okay? Big difference in that. Big difference in that, okay? And they have low contact loads. Like I told you, like my receivers, yeah, we tell them they got to blind, no block, no rock. They don't want to do that, right? They don't want a collision. Okay, my corners, if they go an entire game without making a tackle and they got a PBU, man, that's a great game for them, right? They don't like contact. They don't like contact. If they do, they play in the NFL, all right? So those are some generalizations. Something that really struck up my thought process. So Tim Caron's a friend of mine. He wrote a book, and he talked about positions being eccentric dominant versus concentric dominant. Okay, and this really changed kind of my thought process and looking at it and how I went about planning for this. And I think it's something that we all have to take in consideration when we do look at what are the movement signatures for each position group and those generalization, those 4 subgroups, right? Our big guys are way more concentric dominant. Okay, they have to come off the ball fast, all right? They're usually in a static position. There's less movement that is involved. There's less pre-stretch, all those different things. They rely more on maximal strength and starting strength. Versus all of our guys, as soon as you get further away from the ball and outside that box, man, they're bouncy. They're twitch monsters. They're all about elasticity. Okay, all about elasticity. And these are things that we have to take into consideration. But how do we plan it, right? Like, how do we go about it? We have a trickle down, okay? So you have to know the maximal thresholds per session, per week, per month, per year on what you're training, okay? All the elements of your training, okay? Every single element, you need to know what the maximal threshold is so you can percentage it out per position, all right? So maximal thresholds per session, all right? I got off-season and preseason, so real quick, so I can clarify, my off-season, okay, because if you don't think spring ball is in season, you're crazy, okay? They get just as many practices and scrimmage just as much, okay? My off-season is the first 4 weeks of any training block I have without them having previous in-season. Okay, so January till February, off-season. Okay, preseason was all the way through February. Okay, so when we look at that, we use GPS, we use rep counts, we use a whole, plyometric count, whatever your flavor is, however you can classify this, okay, for yourself, okay, do it. Okay, make sure you know the maximal threshold that you're going to observe and put those kids through. Okay, so when you look at our offseason for high speed 16 plus yards, all right, per session, 200 yards is our max threshold, IMA 150, total yardage in a session 5,000, okay, 3G plus, okay, deaccelerations 15. When you look at XLs, 3G plus 25. Rep count in the weight room, I count reps. As soon as I cross 60%, I'm counting that. That's a countable set. Okay, 85 total reps is my threshold, and then total plyo count is 30. And then as you start to progress through training, you see that inverse relationship where all of the on the field, all the explosive stuff, all the plyometrics ramp up, and my weight room drops down. Okay, that inverse, all right? So however you can do it, however you classify it, you need to know your maximal thresholds, all right? Why? Because when I go and I talk about my big training considerations, okay, it's really easy to prescribe 75% of my total running volume if I know my highest threshold. It's easy. Put it down on paper, that's what they're doing. That's what we're getting to, okay? Big guys, I told you, they literally kidnap people for a living. They grab a guy against his will and bring him somewhere, okay? You need to be strong. You need to be strong if you're 320 pounds to move your own inertia, okay? So they need all the lifting volume they can get, Okay, they need all the max strength. They're concentric dominant, and then everything we do from a plyometric standpoint, we're gonna do way less volume, and it's gonna be bilateral. Okay, when you get into my big mids, okay, they're gonna do about 90% of my running volume. Not as much as what all the skills are gonna do at the highest threshold, but they're gonna do 90%. Why? Because they get a ton of it in the game. They get a ton of it in the practice. They also need to be strong. Okay, 90 to 95% lifting volume. All right, depending upon time of the year. They need deaccelerations and they need plyometric work. You got to watch out, though. The bigger the athlete, the more they're susceptible to foot injuries, especially when they're larger. Okay, so you really got to watch that volume. All right, then you get into my fast mids. Okay, training considerations. All right, my down safeties, they're going to get the same, 90% running volume. They get more decels, so guess what? They're going to get more decel volume in training. Okay, they still need to be strong, but they don't need as much volume as my O-line and my D-line. Okay, so they get 85 and then 85%. And then all my skill guys, and this ain't a good demonstration of a skill guy because he's enormous. All right, that's a dog right there. But 100% running volume, 70%, 75% weightlifting volume. Like if I call you and I'm like, hey man, like, and this is not to be an asshole, but I'm like, hey, how's your training going? Oh, I had 5 corners bench over 305 pounds. Man, I don't give a shit about your corners benching. What do they run, man? How do they change direction? How do they flip their hips, man? What's important? Okay, what's important? They get 100% plyo volume. Okay, and they're eccentric dominant athletes. So we're gonna train eccentrically year round, all right? This is a question that keeps me up at night, all right? I write my program, I feel great. I'm like, man, I'm doing a really good job. You know, coaches are talking about me, I got likes on Twitter. And then I sit up at night and think of this. Do you as a coach systematically drive athletic skills and capacity as enhance sports performance? Am I actually making them better football players? Okay, daily I think about that, almost hourly. Do I make them better football players? If I'm not doing that, then I'm not doing a good job. I don't care how many likes and followers I got. I don't care how many of y'all shake my hand after this. Man, I ain't doing a good job. If my injury rate is through the roof, okay, I'm not doing a good job. Okay, I am not doing a good job preparing these guys for the demands of the game and increasing performance. All right, so what is performance? So I went to the Bible, all right, the Strength and Conditioning Bible. I went to Science and Practice. Jaworski wrote it. Okay, I highly suggest everybody reads it. And what he said was, when sport performance improves, time of motion turns out to be shorter. So when we go back all the way to the beginning slides, when we talked about movement expression times, okay, this is one of the smartest men that ever even stepped foot in the field of strength and conditioning. Okay, if you're decreasing those movement expression times, okay, if you're making those ground contact times faster, okay, sport is getting better. Sport is getting better, okay? But coach, and I'm making fun of me right here, okay? I've done this. I bet a lot of y'all have done this. You walk up to your head coach, man, we had a great summer, 3,300-pound cleans, 55, 500-pound back squats. We passed, we smashed our conditioning test, all that. I won 5 and 7 last year, okay? I had 37 guys clean over 300 pounds. That don't mean shit at the end of the year if you ain't winning games. And I know that's multifactorial, okay? But if you're training for this, and this should be a byproduct, that shouldn't be the mission or the goal. This should be a byproduct, okay? You have to enhance sports performance. It's more than just weight room numbers, okay? It's more than just miles per hour, okay? It's comprehensive. It's everything, okay? It's got to be holistic. Because bottom line, man, it's all about ball. It's all about ball all the time. All about ball, all right? Where does it show up, right? If they're not getting good at their sport, no one cares about squat numbers. Well, how can I determine this, right? How can I see they're getting better? Like, you got to watch film. I got a cowboy and a laptop set in my office, all right? I watch every practice twice. Now, am I going to know and sit there and am I looking for, cover 4 beaters and, was his technique on that wrong arm right or wrong? No, absolutely not. But if we're going to pride ourselves on enhancing movement, we better be able to look at game film and see better movement and movement deficiencies, right? If we're not watching tape, then what are we doing? If you're going to sit here and tell me you're a football strength coach, okay, and I want to be great, we got our guys right, how do you know? Are you watching tape? Okay, watch tape, because you'll see a lot. A lot of things pop out on tape, okay? A lot of things pop out on tape. Our GPS metrics, all right? One thing I can hang my hat on from last year, we played WKU. They ended up beating us in overtime. I had 12 guys go over 10 miles an hour in our last game, or 20 miles an hour in our last game. I had 2 guys go 22. Made this fancy graphic. We lost. I couldn't put the graphic out, which sucked. But it was awesome to see the fact that we were still fast at the end of the year. Okay? What is your GPS telling you? Okay, what is your GPS data telling you? What are the performance markers on that GPS telling you? Okay, are their accelerations maintaining? Okay, are their deaccelerations maintaining? Do they still have high mile per hour? What's their 16-plus yardage output? Is it still high? Can they still manage that volume? All right, these are important. All right, video analysis we already talked about. All right, and then special teams. I love special teams, okay, because it exposes bad athletes. Okay, you put a bad athlete at gunner on punt return or punt, you're going to see it real quick that he's a bad athlete. Okay, I love looking at our statistics for special teams. Okay, not only is it telling me that we're getting better athletically, all right, because we're able to cover more ground, close, all those different things, but it's also telling me a little bit about the temperament of the team. We went from 87th, I believe, in kickoff to 7th nationally. Like, I took pride in that. Like, I put my hand on that. I'm like, yeah, that's good. Okay, toughness, speed, all these different things that we're looking to do. All right. So what does it look like, right? Off-season planning needs to take into consideration tactical and technical outcomes. You have to, and that's the GPS data. That's the, first thing when Coach Herman hired me, I was hired before the coordinators. He told me who he was thinking about bringing in. The first thing I did was research him. What kind of offense? What kind of defense do they run? Okay, what's the anthropometrics of the typical athletes they recruit at each position? Okay, it's extremely to know the tactical side of it and the technical side of it. Now, am I going to sit in every single offensive staff meeting and have him draw up every single cover 4 beater? Absolutely not. Do I need to know all that? No. But I need to have a general idea of what he wants. Okay, because that's what I'm trying to give. I'm trying to give him what he wants. Same thing with the defense. My coach is like, we're going to run to the ball no matter what. There needs to be 11 hats in every single picture. Well, guess what? Your volumes are going to go through the roof, all right? And I've been around DCs that are like, yeah, man, I want 5, 6 guys at the ball. Play, whistle's over, you're good. Get back to the huddle. Okay, it's different. You got to know what you're doing. So when we look at the offseason, I stole this from Fergus Connolly, okay? It's for a coactive model, all right? We're going to drive the physical prep. Obviously, that's us. That's what we do. Bigger, stronger, faster, close faster, all those good things, right? All that shit that we talk about. The psychological preparation, okay? That's us as well, right? We all know for the most part, we drive the culture of the program. Okay, head coach, we get aligned with our head coach, we hear his mission, and we're the ones delivering it daily. Okay, we're the ones telling that kid, hey, guess what, man? Get your foot behind the line. Hey, guess what? Man, you need to buckle up because this squad about to be a son of a bitch. Let's go. Okay, we're those guys. Okay, but then we have things on the other side that are just as important that we need to make sure that we're covering in the offseason, okay? Technical preparation. I'm talking about the skills of blocking, tackling, closing, okay? You talk about breaking on routes, releases on routes, all these different things. There is a technique to all of that that has to be driven in the offseason, okay? And then the tactical side, all right? And now the thing becomes is what's the balancing act? Okay, when is the technical training more important than the tactical training? When is learning how to backpedal and how to get in a good linebacker stance or how to get in a good D-lineman stance more important in that time of the year than learning, okay, if they motion here, what are we doing? Okay, and that's where the magic happens. That's where you got to figure out and talk to your coaches and create that dialogue to build out a model that suffices that, all right? Because when I boil it down, my mission statement is really simple. Okay, as a coach, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to create the fastest, most physical and aggressive team in the nation, bottom line. Okay, I don't care who we play, that's what our goal is. All right, when that tape comes on, that's what we're trying to show. Second part of it, I want to prepare these athletes, okay, and players to adapt and thrive to the stresses of practice. You win games in practice. Don't ever let anybody say otherwise, right? Like, if you can't practice at a high level consistently, your skill development holds. I don't care what kind of talent you got, all right? I had the 2 best receivers in the NFL in my weight room 2 weeks ago. Okay, you know what they were doing? They were outside running routes, all right? You can't tell me a practice isn't important, okay? And you don't have kids more talented. Maybe some of y'all may have some kids going to be that talented, but I don't, that's for sure, all right? So what does it look like? 10,000 foot, right? So when we look at it, when you break it down, we're going to go from general training to specific training to sport. But what we have to look at, and this is Bondarchuk's model, is we have to understand what is general training, which is going to be building capacities, what specific training is, or excuse me, what general skill training is, which is going to be that specific preparatory exercise, what specific skill development is going to be, and those are going to be that next branch up, and then we get to competitive exercise where we just say, hey, you know what, just go out there and go. Okay? You have to know what this is so that you can classify and catalog your exercise selection, whatever it may be, okay, to fit this so that you can plan accordingly, all right? Because this is what it looks like for us. We train in Continuum, All right, we're going to build physical capacities, and we're going to talk about what a capacity versus skill is. We're going to build physical capacities. All right, we're going to rehearse the hell out of general skills, okay? We're going to rehearse the hell out of specific skills, and then we're going to say, you know what, we can feel confident that they're going to play faster with more precise gameplay. Okay, we're going to build this thing from the inside out or outside in. All right, so what is a capacity and what is a skill? All right, the easiest way to define it is a capacity is the amount that something can produce. So when we think in terms of strength and conditioning, what a capacity is, it's force expression. It is force expression. I don't care if it's eccentric, concentric, isometric, if it's in the acceleration phase, whatever. It is force expression. Okay, how much force did they generate? All right, because whenever you break it down, we have 15 different classifications for strength. You're just describing force output. Okay, it's force expression. Okay, the ability to express force. All right, what's skill? It's the ability to do something well. All right, what does skill look like in the simplest terms? It's movement execution. Okay, it's movement execution. All right, and what we see is capacities, force, is expressed when performing a given skill. Okay, I sprint, I'm expressing capacities, I'm expressing force. Okay, I change direction, I'm building force, I'm stopping force, I'm moving force, okay? I'm doing skills. So when you look at capacities, how do we build capacities? Okay, and I like fours. I don't know, maybe it's just easy to put that up, and I know that pisses people off when you put it on Twitter. Okay, when I look at it, okay, there's 4 specific ones. You got peak force, maximal strength. All right, you have to be strong. Now, to what level, at what position, we can argue on that all day. But you have to have high levels of relative body strength. You have to have high levels of absolute strength. Rate of force development, all right? I could create all this force. Well, guess what? You got to do it fast, okay? You have to have the ability to express force extremely fast because we saw 500 milliseconds or less. That's all you got, okay? Stress shortening cycle, right? We got to be bouncy. We have to be able to use our muscles as rubber bands. We have to. There's a lower metabolic cost, okay? There's more force output. We have to train that. We have to be able to use that, okay? And then you look at endurance, which is the most bastardized term in our field, okay? Endurance is just repeatability of a specific task, okay? First thing we think endurance, like, oh yeah, that 4K or that 5K. See, I don't even know what marathons. That 5K, okay? It's not. It's just repeatability of a task. All right, an O-line, his endurance is punching someone in the face 72 times in a row. Okay, so when you go and plan and reverse engineer how you want to get there, you better think about what you're getting to, okay? We talk, okay, what it's all about when we look at these capacities. We have this thing called an impulse, and basically all it is force divided by time, right? So you got your force curve. What we're trying to do is increase the height of the curve, which is our peak force, the slope of the curve, which is our rate of force, and we're trying to increase the height of the curve, which is our peak force, all right? So when you look at training, what we're actually trying to do is we're trying to increase our ability for impulse. What is impulse? Okay, it's mass times velocity. What is mass times velocity? It's momentum. See how that came full circle? Okay, at the end of the day, when you break it down to the most basic level, that's what we're trying to do, okay, when it comes from a force expression standpoint. How do we do it? We have a bunch of traditional ways to do it. All right, we do some fancy stuff like overcoming ISOs and altitude drops and all that. We also squat. That's a starting fullback for the Saints, front squatting 500 pounds in the off season. Okay, you can get as fancy as you want. You can get as simple as you want. Whatever your flavor is, whatever you hang your hat on, do it. Okay, whatever you feel comfortable teaching, do it. Just make sure it's sufficient in that specific attribute, which is peak force. Okay, that's a corner in the NFL, deadlifting, sumo deadlifting 505 in the off season. I'm sorry, I like watching our guys lift, man. They're amazing. Moving on, all right? So we go from force, and now what do we do with it, right? You know, and that's the thing. It's like, okay, when is strong enough? When all these things, right? So what you have here is I found this article, Training for Muscular Power, okay? And I went back, I read the article, and it really challenged, again, my perspective on some things earlier in my career. All right, if I get strong in squat, everything's gonna go up no matter what. As long as, even if I don't train it, it'll just go up, right? That's not true. Okay, that's not true. And then when I read the Science of Practice again, Jaworski had this one segment, and he said the better athlete's qualifications. So in Russia, qualifications means world class, regional, Olympic level, all those different things. So if you're the highest level, right, you're an Olympic gold medalist, okay, that's the highest qualification, right? The difference between the Olympic medalist, okay, and the guy that's pretty good, but he's at regionals, was his ability to produce force rapidly. okay, his ability to produce force rapidly. It wasn't his overall maximal strength, okay, it was his ability to produce force rapidly, all right? Because if you look at this, right, the guy with the solid line, let's just say this is shot put, okay? That's a 500-pound bench, okay? That solid line is 500, he could bench 500 pounds. That's as strong as he is, okay? And then you got that thinly dotted line. You see that thing right there that goes up into the corner of that 200 milliseconds? Okay, let's say he benches 300, all right? Who produces the more force at 200 milliseconds? It's the guy that only benches 300. Well, if I had to take a guess, he's going to throw the shot further. Okay, so again, strong is strong enough. I'm not ever going to discredit how important peak force and maximal strength is, but again, it better start transferring, and you better have exercise that do. Exercise that do, okay, that do help with transfer. We do single response jumps. Okay, I love seated barbell. That's 11.6 on a broad jump on pro day. Okay, different jump variations, different ballistic exercise. I love Olympic lifting. Okay, I put a clean pull up, A.J. Brown doing a clean pull at 335 the other day. You would have swore I shot him. How much hate mail I got, man. It was crazy. That's fine. We'll keep lifting. All right, I absolutely love cleans, Olympic variations, all those different things. And then you could even get into the other side of it, the dynamic squats, the banded squats, the chains, all those other things that you can incorporate as long as you're in those specific velocity ranges. Okay, next thing we got to build from a capacity standpoint is that stretch shortening cycle. You got to build the bounce. You got to build the bounce. We do that with continuous jumps. We do that with bounding. I absolutely love depth jumps. If you're not depth jumping higher than their vertical, just have them jump in place. It's the same thing. I'll say that again. If you're not depth jumping higher than their vertical, okay, just have them jump in place because it's the same thing. It's the same mechanical force. It has to be higher than what they can just jump in place. Okay, so if you're jumping off a 12-inch box and you got a guy who jumps 42, you ain't doing them much, okay? But different exercises that develop that. Running is one of the best plyometrics that you can have. A ground contact of 100 milliseconds to 80 milliseconds with 4 times body weight. Incredible, okay, incredible. Different vector jumps. I saw some of those from Nick DeMarco, so I got to give him credit, okay? This is Jake Beckett's brother. He did some pro day training with us, but we do fact check. We're like, all right, is it a fast plyometric? Is the box too high? And then we could cross-reference it. So we look right here. We're trying to be under 300 milliseconds. He's an animal. Was he in Canada now? Yeah, that's awesome. All right, different jump variations. Again, you can start as simple as you want and you get to as complicated as you want as long as you have those progressions in place, as long as you know what you're training for. Okay, I'm not here to tell you what exercises are better or worse. All right, and then endurance. Okay, repeatability of a specific task. Repeatability of a specific task, right? Ability to sustain performance at a given intensity. Again, I want that O-line to be able to punch that guy in front of him 72 times as hard as he can. How do we get there? Okay, early off season, we'll do some repeat sprintability. We'll do some extensive tempo work. We stopped doing traditional conditioning after week 2. Okay, and we got into what you're seeing here. Okay, contact prep drills. All right, where that guy's trying to literally mush that guy across the field. Okay, tag-off drills. Okay, different pattern runs that we're going to see in the field of play. All right, rabbit drills, all these different things. And I'm not doing this to brag. I'm doing this to say that when you do preparing for the game, good things happen. We had 0 non-contact injuries, 0 concussions, okay, and 0 soft tissue injuries coming out of spring. And if you don't believe me, call my trainer, Bill Sanders. Okay, it's because when you're preparing for the game, they're ready for the game. Okay, anybody, well, coach, how do you get all that yardage in there? I mean, that's probably like 2,000 yards. Our average session was like 6,000 yards. Okay, it's easy to manipulate volume and intensity. Okay, when you have the place to start, when you understand what you're trying to do, it's easy to manipulate volume and intensity. Well, what's the goal at the end of the day? I want to build reserves, okay, that are higher than the game demands. All right, so Charlie Francis made speed reserve an extremely popular theory, right? If I run 20 miles an hour, I'm 80%, I get 80%, I'm 80% tired, right? I'm gonna run, what is that, I'm 16 miles an hour. But if I run at 16 miles an hour and I get 80%, my math's gonna be terrible here, I'm gonna run at like 12 miles an hour, right? If I'm faster, I look like I'm in better shape, I win. So when you do push those numbers to 21, 22, or when you take that same idea and put it to eccentric rate of force development, okay? A negative 6G deacceleration, you're gonna get up to like 7 times body weight. Okay, if they're used to handling that all the time, even up to 8, 9 negative Gs, okay, when they go in a game, they can do 5 and they have to do that 5 times, they got the reserve to handle that and recover from that. So when we look at capacities, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build reserves. Then we get the general skill. One of my favorite quotes, I fear not the man that has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man that has practiced one kick 10,000 times. There are 4 locomotion demands, general locomotion demands, general skills that we see in football. okay? You have to rehearse them all. You have to rehearse them all. They're going to accelerate, they're going to de-accelerate, they're going to change direction, and they're going to run at top speed. They're going to run at top speed. How do we train that, right? Acceleration, I'm not going to kill it to death because there's a million ways to do it. All right, I like sleds. I like pushing. I like pulling. I like all different types of weight. I use every weight on that spectrum. I use from 10% all the way up to 120% of body weight, depending on the position and the time of the year, okay? I love races. I absolutely love races. Guys, there's some guys in here that work for me. They understand how intense race day is. On Monday, end of that workout, get on the line. Skill guys up. Who's my fastest guy? And see what happens. I got side bets going on here for push-ups and probably stuff I don't want to know about, okay? And they're getting after it. They are getting after it. They're talking shit. The intensity of it is high. Coaches out there hyping guys up. It's a fun time. You get unbelievable intent, okay? Unbelievable intent. I love racing, okay? We don't go past 20 yards. Some funky stuff for whatever reason. As soon as you pass that 20-yard mark, happens. So we stay within 20 yards. We do different start variations. You saw waterfall stuff that we were doing in there. Kneeling, on your belly, on your back, all different kinds of angles, sideways, all those things, right? Because we might have to get up and go. And then we time. We time. Why do we time? Because they love feedback. They love to know if they're getting faster. They want comparable numbers to what the guy in the NFL is doing at the combine. Okay, and then you know why we time? So I could audit myself. Because if I'm sitting here saying, hey, we're getting faster, we're in week 5, and we didn't get faster, then I'm doing something wrong. Okay, I'm doing something wrong. And when we time, we test. Okay, or when we train, we test. It ain't like we have a test day. Every day is a test day. Every day is game day. You step foot in them white lines, it's game day, man. You better run a fast 10. All right, all my coaches know what a fast fly 10 time is. All right, head coach coming walking through my warm-up the other day. Who's going to run .91? Who's running .91? Who's going to run 22 today? Okay, they all know it. All right, and they make it important, and it's a fun environment. All right, maximum velocity sprinting. Okay, real simple. We run upright. There ain't no magic to it. Run upright. Find a progression to get upright. All right, I like using wickets early on. Okay, I love flies. All right, you see this guy running. That's a little kid running 19 miles an hour. He's on my son's team. He's 9 years old. He's a freak show. He ran 13-1 in the 100 last weekend. You talk about Florida speed is different. Okay, different. Made my son look bad. I'm like, damn, James, I can't do nothing for you, bro. I'm sorry. That's God-given. Okay, but how do we do it? You got to get upright. You got to get upright. You got to get upright. You got to be able to teach it. You got to be able to progress it, right? You can't just go out there and be like, hey, fly 10s, 40-yard build. Go ahead. Have at it, week 1. And then you're like, oh, guys get blown up. But if you progress over time, you can get there, right? Big guys, do they need as much volume as the skill guys? Absolutely not. Why? Because we know demands of the game. Do they need little exposure? Absolutely. Okay, the difference is, okay, big guys run fast, sort of, okay, it's 16 miles an hour versus 22. My receivers running at 22. My big guy's max speed is 16. Or you look at Ken Clark's research and look at acceleration curves of all the combine athletes. Okay, big guys are getting the top speed at like 12, 14 yards, and the skill guys are roughly like 22, 24. Okay, so if you are programming fly 10s, my disclaimer is this: don't put a 20-yard build with a 10-yard hold. You just put a 10-yard build with a 20-yard hold in for that big guy. Okay, you just doubled his high-speed volume and didn't even know it. All right? And then again, it's 15 yards versus 23. All right, getting into deceleration. Oh, I'm definitely going over. I'm sorry. All right, deceleration, braking, okay? Newton's second law. We all love to be like, yeah, F equals MA. F equals MA. Well, did you know the A can be negative? Because that's what deceleration is, negative acceleration. That's how it's literally described in scientific terms, right? So how do we get to it? We do different deceleration. We'll do a two-step with a band. Okay, we'll go 5-yard build. We'll go 10-yard build. With our skill guys, we'll get to 15. We test it. We test it, right? If I'm going to claim and make this one of my 4 main locomotion pillars, I got to test to make sure we're getting better. We put a 10-yard gate. We put a gate in a gate, 10 yards apart. They got to run 90% of their best 10-yard sprint. Okay, and then we put a camera on the side, high-speed camera, and we measure time to stop, okay, and distance to stop. All right, because that's great. You can run 22 miles an hour. All right, that's great. This ain't track. You're going to have to stop at some point in time, okay? And the guys that are elite, they stop fast and they stop short at really high speeds, okay? So we want to make sure we're testing that all the time. And again, big guys, right? They might be negative 3 meters per second versus the skill guys might be negative 8. And the difference is the build-in. Our big guys don't go past 10 yards when our deceleration work. All right, that's 340 pounds. Stand in front of an 18-wheel and try to stop it versus standing in front of a golf cart rolling in neutral and trying to stop it. All right, that's the difference. Okay, we have to understand that. That's physics. All right, entry velocity, 5 miles per hour versus 17. Okay, Funny story, so I'm training AJ, and he talked about, hey, we're talking about all this stuff and how important deceleration training is and all that. And he's like, man, I run all my routes at 20 miles an hour. I said, bullshit, you run your routes at 20 miles an hour. I said, the games played, all right, so for everyone to understand, when you look at GPS, majority of the games played for our skilled guys, between 13 and 18 miles an hour. Right, so I told him that. I said, it's 13 to 18. And Lanier, you know AJ, so you know he's stubborn as hell. So I said, all right, let's do this. Warm up, put a catapult on, run a route tree. Right, he comes inside. You know his average high speed was 17.5, and I'm like, I got your ass. Like, so again, the game is, you have to be able to stop. You have to be able to run, right? You have to be able to take the top off, but if you can't stop, you're in some trouble, all right? Then we get into change direction, okay? And when I look at change direction, when I try to conceptualize what change direction is, you get into 4 distinct characteristics, okay? You get into a 90-degree cut, okay? You get into a speed 45-degree cut. You get into a full reversal where you're changing and coming back. And then you get maneuverability, which I just lumped that in there, which is not actually a cut, but you are changing direction without cutting, okay? Which is extremely important. Think about kickoff, right? Everyone loves trim the fat drill on kickoff. That is literally one of the best drills when you talk about maneuverability, right? It's an S run, okay? They do that all the time, all right? They do that all the time in sport. How do we train it? All right, we do multiple directional hops, right? I told you I like Nick DeMarco's vector jumps. I absolutely love them, okay? I absolutely love them. I said there's benefit, especially for big guys if you're trying to save the wear and tear on them. All right, we do 90-degree cut drills. We teach it, okay? He's a GA now who's an all-conference safety for us, all right? Maximal effort coming to a stop. We teach it, all right? How do you advance this, all right? Instead of just going on a whistle, now you go on my movement. All right, how do you advance it even more? Put a guy next to him and have him mirror him and rabbit him. You can build it out easy, okay? We do full reversals. It sucks that Parisi's speaking right now because I absolutely used the shit out of all his stuff. All right, all the different change direction, basic support, all that stuff. Like, I absolutely love it. I've used it for many years after I saw Ryan Ojeda come to LSU back in like 2011, okay? If you're gonna do it, you better test it, okay? Find me another a better test for a 180 cut outside of a 5-10-5. All right, we test our arc runs, we test our S runs, we test our 45-degree cuts, we test our 90-degree cuts. All right, all these things that we can do in a training session, okay? Now, if we do all that, we build capacities, okay? We increase their maximal force output. We increase their rate of force development, all right? We enhance all their skills, their general skills. They accelerate better. They change direction better, all these different things. Now, we have to take the next step and put it into play. And what does that look like? That's specific skill development. And that's going to be agility, right? That's the first thing that comes to mind is agility, okay? They have to react off something. Okay, there is a cognitive factor, right? The OODA loop, everyone loves to sound fancy and talk about. I got to be able to see what's going on around me, make a great decision in a small amount of time, and get my body repositioned to express force fast, okay? There has to be that cognitive side. Now, we also have to understand, change of direction and decel are literally the underlying determinant of success, along with your ability to observe your environment and make fast decisions in agility. So my thing is this, is like if we ain't teaching them, okay, it's like saying, hey, I want you to write an essay, but you don't understand the alphabet. Okay, teach them the alphabet first and build it out from there. Okay, build it out from there. All right, defensive players must have faster reaction than offensive players. Okay, but I'm gonna throw a little twist in here, right? I'm an old lineman, it's a pass play, and I'm kick sliding. Am I an offensive or defensive player? I'm a defensive player. I'm reacting off the guy in front of me. Okay, so we have to understand what positions have that mirror, that reversal going on in their training, right? My running backs, they need to be the offensive guy every single time. My receivers, they need to be the offensive guy every single time. Okay, my DBs, not so much. Okay, my linebackers, not so much. And then we have to understand the positional differences for agility. And it's really simple. You got your 20-yard box for your outside guys and all those fast guys and speed guys. Well, guess what? The big guys just do it in a 5-yard box, so it happens faster and there's more of it. Okay, just bring the distances in, all right? Evading and tracking, okay? Because when you break it down, the game of football is pretty simple. Offense is trying to create space, okay? Defense is trying to close space. You better train it, right? That better be part of your program. How can you do this? There's a bunch of ways you can do it, okay? There's ways where you can implement the general skills that you've already built and put it into an open environment. Okay, you could build out all the drills that you had in that general skill category, that 90-degree cut, and put it in an open environment. All right, full reversal, right? Doing 5-10-5s. Look, this is a 180-degree cut drill right here. Okay, now they have to react off a rabbit. Now they have to change direction. Okay, the guy on the end sucks. Jake, you're probably yelling at him as we speak. okay? Different movements, different movement expressions that are predominant, right, in those position drills. And they ain't just rapid drills. There's a bunch. You saw the tag-off drills right here, okay? Your football coach comes out and sees this. What's he going to say? He's like, man, this is football. This is awesome, okay? We're here to bridge the gap. We're here to bridge the gap, okay? Different tag-off drills, all right? It's hard. It's intense. There's 15 coaches yelling them. All the toughness that goes along with it, okay, is there, okay? But we're getting something done. We're bridging the gap between general skills and specific skills. We're adding in actual context of games, right? The small-sided game is what we're getting to, all right? We have to look at that model. See, look, there's Jake right there. Hell yeah, Jake, get his ass, okay? OTAs, right? We all know the coaches, they could be out there year-round with us now, okay? Well, however you break it up, 6-2-2, 6-4 3-1, whatever it is, right? They're out there, okay? They're out there. We have to understand that and take advantage of it. If everything is about ball, how are we building out this model to help our football coaches, okay, teach the technical side better, teach the tactical side? Man, coach like, hey, I need 30 minutes for film. Take it. I'll figure it out. I'm good. We'll get it done, okay? It's important because guess what? I told you, you know, that little 15 minutes I could have did for some prehab or some whatever, okay, versus that kid knowing in cover 4 I got that section of the field and he gets a pick in the game that wins us a game. What's more important at that point in time, right? There's always ways to get stuff in, okay? We're extremely territorial animals, man. It's my time. That's my time. No, hell no. It's their time, the players' time, to develop them into the best football player we can make them, okay? It's their time, all right? Understanding technical versus tactical, right? In the early offseason, technical is way more important than tactical, okay? I'm in January. I mean, we don't need to do an hour worth of film, okay? We could go outside and do an hour worth of Indy, which is way better for that athlete at that point in time, okay? Instilling good technical. Now we get in the summertime. We're in summer 2, okay? It's June. All the coaches are out there, OTA. Well, guess what? We got 15 new faces like the portal loves to give us every 3 months, it seems like, okay? We got to get those guys up to speed. We got to teach them our scheme. We got to instill all these different things. Okay, that tactical side is going to be more important, all right? It's preparation for actual practice. Are you building this thing out, okay? Are you building it out to try to get them on that field for an hour and 30 minutes, hour and 40 minutes, okay? Whether that's implementing captain's practices at the end, putting 7-on-7, whatever it is. Are you building that model out? Because the closer you get to there, the closer you're going to be to having them ready for practice. Okay, run 110s all. I was talking with Coach Moffitt all weekend about it. He said we did 110 tests after 110 tests after 110 tests. And guess what? They're still tired practice 1. Okay, because they ain't been doing all that. They ain't been changing direction, reacting off people, collision, punching people, running around, hitting their chest, getting up and running to the ball. They ain't been doing that. Okay, heart rate efficiency. We monitor our heart rates. And what we found was, man, our heart rate efficiency skyrocketed, meaning in a good way. Okay, we had way less metabolic resources being used, okay? Our heart rate efficiency was great. Our mechanical stress output was higher when we implemented this. I told you, I only did 2 weeks of traditional conditioning this year, two. And then the last thing, it allows your coach as a coach, okay? Everybody wants to talk about alignment, all right? Alignment is the entire building, from the custodian to the head coach. Everyone should have the same language. Everyone should be speaking the same thing. Perfect example, Rock Bellatoni's my DC. All right, he came in, he watched some of the videos, like, man, this is awesome stuff. I got one thing for you. I said, shoot, coach, what you got? He goes, we don't go palms up, we go palms down, as I want him to think about running through the tackle versus pulling up on the tackle. Yes, sir, done. I would have never known that if I didn't try to make that connection and tell him what we were doing and go out there and show him these drills. All right, last week, had him in my office. We're going through different tackling drills and obstacles in the drills, trying to increase those progressions, right? It's all about connecting with the coaches, pushing one message, one voice all the time. Okay? Tackling and blocking, right? It's the dumbest thing in the world. It baffles me. All the NCAA wants to do is cry about concussion rates, but yet they make it illegal, okay, to do any type of collision in the entire year. Not on a dummy, not on a bag, not at a walk-through pace, anything. Okay? It makes 0 sense. It makes 0 sense. And tackling is a skill. Okay? Tackling is a skill. There's different forms of tackles. Okay, that you can train, that you can regress. Just like every exercise we prescribe, we can regress a tackle. Okay, it needs to be trained. You got to be creative in how you do it. Like, we have to rely on captain's practices, on tag-off drills, and all those different things. Okay, but it should be in there. Blocking, same thing. So what we do is we put in some of Andy Ragland's progressions for our collision prep. Andy Ragland, he played at Penn State, and then he does a ton of stuff with rugby, okay? And it's been tremendous in preparing our guys, okay, for the demand of collision. Now, on top of that, it's hard, man. Like, you're getting in another dude's bubble. You're getting in his personal space, and you're saying, all right, big, I ain't going to say that. But, all right, big son of a gun. Like, me and you right now, I ain't getting beat. I ain't getting put on my back, okay? We blow that whistle. They go to work, man. It's a 5 to 7 second fight, okay? That's our starting center and our 3 tech, man. They don't want to lose. We're marking everything, wins, losses. They got their whole position group standing behind them, okay, hollering at them. Man, and the funny thing is majority of our football coach, how many of them in the first period or sometime in practice go out there and put a guy here and do there and do board drill? That's what that is, okay? You don't want to end up like this guy. This guy gets mushed, right? Look at that. That's bad ball right there. He can't help us. Okay, all his teammates talking trash to him. You want a tough culture? Man, combat, collision is part of football. So as much as we want to take it out of it, it is there. It is there. To want to collide with someone takes a certain mentality. Okay, you got to train that. You got to train that nasty. As much as you want to be a finesse player, all that, man, like, that's football. They're going to punch you in the mouth. What are you going to do about it? And that's what those drills give us. They give us that toughness element. I got Ed Warner, our O-line coach, and if anyone's familiar with Ed Warner, man, he'll get after you now, and he's right there. Oh, get him, you know, gun him, kill him, go, like saying all kinds of crazy stuff, man. That's the type of environment we want to play with. All right, upper body. I absolutely love the difference pad. Okay, we use it every single day. All right, I'm not trying to plug it, okay, but at the same time, it's an unbelievable tool. This is my son, my 9-year-old. All right. Upper body prep. We could be like, oh, yeah, hey, we did a ton of upper body. They're ready to go. And then our O-line goes out there like, coach, man, my shoulders and triceps ain't never felt this sore before after the first practice. Well, why? Because they punch over 120 times in a single practice. You got to get them ready for that. Now, I wish my son would roll his hips a little bit better. We're going to work on that. Come on, Bubba. That was okay. That was okay, right? How do you schedule it, right? We want to make sure there's compatibility in training. Okay, so we want to schedule 7-on-7. As we get closer to sport, it has to be in there. It has to be in there. We want to schedule one-on-ones. Okay, it has to be in there. Make sure you put parameters on what you're looking for. Like, we don't want guys on the ground. We don't want guys yoking each other down. This is to get better. Okay, but it has to be in there. All right, organizing training. Okay, making the pieces of the puzzle fit. Huge Charlie Francis fan. Okay, huge Charlie Francis fan. All right, vertical integration model. Okay, he's going to train all these abilities year-round at different prescribed volumes. Okay, because if it's important, it better be in your program year-round. It better be in your program year-round. All right, so what does that look like from a capacity standpoint? Okay, so you look at this early off-season, my first 4 weeks. Okay, we're going to hit endurance. We're going to hit maximal strength development. Okay, we're still going to train for power. We're going to still train for bounce. It's just at less prescribed volume. Okay, now as we move and progress, what happens? It changes. It changes. It becomes more specific. We get more power development, okay? We get more bounce development. Endurance is still in there, just at a small percentage, and so is maximal strength. You have to train heavy to stay strong, okay? Now we talk about putting all the pieces together, okay? Early off season, build reserves, all right? So 50% of our training time is going to be dedicated towards increasing capacities, okay? Which means simple training, which means we're going to go out on maximal sprint. We're going to do acceleration training. We're going to squat. We're going to bench. That's capacity training, all right? That's capacity training, all right? And then as we get closer, that flips, okay? That flips. Now we increase general skill development, okay? We increase specific skill development. We increase all those attributes. As you get closer to football, we do more football. We do more things that look like football, okay? We want to match training stressors, okay? I love Bouchek Snyder to death, man. Anything you can read or listen to, please do. And this is my favorite quote. Okay, he says, I drink water to hydrate, and I drink whiskey to get drunk. Okay, make sure that when you're prescribing, okay, for that day, we're doing max speed work. Make sure at the end of the day it reflects max speed work. Make sure there's clarity in what you're sending that stress to the body. Make sure there's a clear signal. No murky water. No murky water. Why? Because we've all done it. I've done it. It's like what doesn't match. Man, I got this exercise that matches this exercise, and then you know what? Fuck them. Throw this in. You know, and it's like, why'd I do that? I just destroyed my entire day, right? I just destroyed that entire stimulus for that entire day because I just felt like putting some in. Make sure there's clear objectives in every training drill. Make sure you follow those objectives. There's a whole science to it, Vladimir Ishram, he talked about compatibility of training. There are certain training elements that go together extremely well. And there's some that have no business being near each other. Okay, no business being near each other. Okay, so when we look at how do we program, how does it look? I want to make sure, first off, I define what's a high-intensity exercise. Okay, if you were to look at my program, you'd be like, oh, he's a dynamic effort guy, or he's a conjugate guy, or he's a high-low guy. All this. No, I'm trying to get my high-intensity stimuluses and my main training objectives on one day and provide the adequate recovery window so that they enhance over time. That's all I'm doing. Okay, that's all I'm doing. How I look at it, anything in that side over there on that big graph, that Charlie Francis graph, anything speed, power, fast, coordination, guess what? That's a high-intensity stimulus. Okay, that's a high-intensity stimulus, all right? From the relative, at least for me, and this is where, again, your own opinion and you formulate your own way of doing it and classifying it. Anything on that bar graph right there after good morning is a high-intensity stimulus for me. Okay, and some of the powerlifters are like, man, bench press, you better put that in there. That's just how I do it. You do it how you want to do it, okay? What does it look like in a week? All right, we want to build the intensity of the week, but we also want to cycle high-intensity elements with low-intensity elements so that we have recovery built in, right? So when we look at this is our first 4 weeks in January, all right? Performance day, okay? Acceleration, some kind of plyo, weight room-wise, we're gonna do some kind of concentric jumps. Ballistic-wise, we're gonna do some Olympic lifts from the ground, and it's a high concentric or strength day in there, okay? High strength day in there. Support day, we're gonna lift first. Okay, and it's upper body dominant. Not saying that it has to be upper body. I've put in lower body accessories that are lower intensity in there before. Okay, we're gonna do some rate of force, we're gonna do some maximal strength upper body, and then we did extensive tempos. This is the first 2 weeks. Okay, Wednesday, all right, we did performance, max velocity sprinting, D-cell work. Why? Because there's a high eccentric demand in D-cell work. There's a high eccentric demand with maximal velocity. Again, compatibility, no murky water. Okay, eccentric rate of force development in the weight room. What does that look like? Drop landings, dumbbell snap downs, all those different things. Trap bar snap downs. Okay, and then we did eccentric peak force work. All right, what does that look like? That's going to be your typical Cal Dietz 6 seconds down, cell maximal, okay, or your Poliquin, wherever your flow is, moving into more advanced methods where you get to super maximal weights. All right, then that could be a whole nother presentation on itself. And then we end the week, okay, with an upper body maximal strength workout and intensive tempos outside. All right, then we shift. We run and live 5 days a week. I'll say it again. We run and live 5 days a week within the 8-hour rule, really the 6-hour rule. All right, we get it done. Okay, find a way to get it done. All right, performance day, again, Monday and Wednesday now, or just Monday and Thursday. We take D-cells out. We move that to Friday. We put some mechanical work for change of direction in there. Okay, and we add another high-intensity element. Boo always said, like, everyone does a great job of increasing volume and increasing intensity. That's easy to do, right? I go from 20 reps to 25 reps. I go from 80% to 85. Who's increasing density? Because that's what they do with practice, right? They increase density. And density, all it is, how many times do they do that high-intensity element over a week? All right, you have to increase density. That's what we did. We put in another high-intensity day on Friday. Okay, and then you can see we got that OTA model, those support days, that Tuesday and that Thursday. We built that thing out. We're working out in the morning, upper body-wise. They got a team meeting. Okay, they got position meetings. We get on the field. We flex them. We put them through a 5-station, what you saw, we call it practice prep, which is the evading, collision prep, all those drills. And then for the last 30 minutes, they got 15 minutes of indie, 15 minutes of walkthrough. And we all know what walkthrough means, right? And then we finish up with some competition at the end, and Coach Herman breaks them down and gets them off the field. Okay, and we build that out. Am I under time? Look at that. Any questions? Yeah, please take my number down. I know I've talked to a few people in here before on the phone, man. Like, it's about sharing. Like, I'm an open book. Whatever you want to know about what we do, who I am, my assistants, whatever, man, feel free to hit me up anytime. No questions? I don't know if that's good or bad. Uh-oh. Well, appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for having me here, and see you around.